Hey everyone, welcome back to Daily Devotions. Pastor Steve here, walking with you in God's Word. We're in the Gospel of John, chapter 2. And this story, only recorded in the Gospel of John, is one of the most popular miracles. It's the first miracle, and as I just had a wedding this past week, it's even in the holy matrimony rite in our what's called an agenda. It's kind of, you bring forth the liturgy of the wedding, and within that first paragraph it said that Jesus blessed marriage with using his first miracle at a marriage. And we know this story well. John chapter 2, Jesus changes water into wine. And so what I want you to do is be able to read this text, and I know we've heard this, perhaps maybe you've heard it from the time that you were little, and this is something that just was amazing. That the miracle of how do you go water into wine. But it isn't necessarily about the miracle. That's why actually the Gospel of John doesn't call Jesus' miracles miracles. We call them that, and the other Gospels call them that. But John calls them signs. John calls them signs because it's leading us once again, just as we've talked about in these last videos, right? Of being able to say the light has come into the darkness. John the Baptist has lived out his calling and his purpose to just point to Jesus. Jesus is calling his disciples closer to him so that they could see his glory. And actually even says to Nathanael, hey, Nathanael, you believe because you heard that I said that I knew you underneath the fig tree, and your mind was kind of blown. You're going to see greater things than this. And then he goes into Cana and he changes water into wine. But John wants to bring this forth in the gospel of being able to say, see, you're going to see greater things. But the greater things isn't necessarily the temporal miracles that we see Jesus doing. It's rather seeing Jesus for who he is and actually seeing his glory continue to be manifested in who he is, the Son of God, the Messiah, the one who has come to bring about the glory of the Father. And so we get to see that throughout the Gospel of John. So I don't want you to just be sidetracked. Now I want you to be amazed that he turns water into wine, but I want you to read a little bit deeper into this section, John chapter 2. That yes, Jesus turns water into wine, but for what purpose? What purpose? Hold on to it in the gospel, that we'll just get to see Jesus' glory to continue to be revealed. John chapter 2, beginning at verse 1. On the third day, a wedding took place. Now, we get to understand as best we can, and when I was over in Israel, we got to actually go to Cana in Galilee, as it's called. This in that region there. It's around the Sea of Galilee, not far. They're actually right in between the Sea of Galilee and Nazareth, as we see there. And these wedding festivals lasted for days. A lot of what we get to know is most likely a week, the 7 days. And as they had this certain realities that happened day after day, it was a continual meeting, a continual celebration day after day. And if you thought weddings were not long now, but expensive now, you can only imagine that for 7 days you have to provide, the family has to provide the celebration of food and drink and the gathering of people in the place for a week-long celebration. So on the third day, a wedding took place at Cana in Galilee. Jesus' mother was there, and Jesus and his disciples had also been invited to the wedding. So real quickly, when we get into depth with this isn't just Jesus showing up and doing, wedding crashing. This is Jesus showing up because he was invited. This is somebody that knows the family of Jesus, that knows the people that Jesus is associating with, his disciples as well. Jesus and his disciples had also been invited to the wedding because his mother was there as well. When the wine was gone, Jesus' mother said to him, "They have no more wine." It's not a question. I want you to see that as well. A lot of times we say, Mary went to Jesus and said, "There's no more wine. Is there something you can do?" Never says that. Sometimes we put that into our minds, but there's no more wine. There's a statement there that the wine is gone in a celebration that is actually should be furnished from the family. How shameful and how, I wouldn't say irresponsible, but here is a party that doesn't have the hospitality it needs to continue to go. And this is what's going to mark the people's wedding, the people's marriage. They're the people that ran out of wine. What shame could be in that culture at that time. They have no more wine. It's just a statement. It's not a question. But yet Jesus says, dear woman, why do you involve me? Why would you make that statement? Jesus replied, my time has not yet come. I know you're stating this because you know me, but my time has not come. His mother said to the servants, do whatever he tells you. Do whatever he tells you. I didn't ask him for wine. I just know that he said to me, don't involve me. My time has not come. Yet there's going to be some kind of action. Do whatever he tells you. Nearby, verse 6, stood 6 stone water jars, the kind used by the Jews for ceremonial washing, each holding from 20 to 30 gallons. This was another necessity at the gathering, especially of the Jewish people, that they would have ceremonial washing. Throughout their days, they would become unclean, and they would actually have to wash themselves. And this, we get to see this later into the gospel of people questioning Jesus. Like, why aren't your disciples washing before they eat? Why aren't they doing the ceremonial tasks to be able to be clean rather than unclean, right? That's why they washed feet. That's why they washed their hands. It's actually even why in this part of being able to say these jugs, as it says, jars, 20 to 30 gallons, it was something that they did quite a bit. They needed quite a bit of water to pour over their hands to be able to wash certain ceremonial rites, to be able to be clean, to participate in the gathering of the people together. And so as they, each holding 20 to 30 gallons. Verse 7, Jesus said to the servants, fill the jars with water. Well, they should be filled with water already, but even the water is gone, it seems like. So they filled them to the brim. This is no small task. They have to go to a place, 20 to 30 gallons. These are huge. They're not plastic jugs where they just kind of fill them up. They don't have necessarily the faucet just to be able to bring water into it. These are jars. This took them some time and energy, and so it was an obedient act, an incredible obedient act. Actually, when you're over in Cana and Galilee, and I really push you to do that, you'll get to see, they take you through the wedding place over in Cana. It's not maybe the official place, but they have jars, artifacts that they've found, these jars of ceremony clay. They are massive clay jars. Not easy. And he says to the servants, it has to be more than one. It's not just some person filling up these things, but 6 of these jars, 120 gallons, 150 gallons of water that he would bring forth, and that they would actually have to carry these jars to a place of water. So incredible obedience, and fill the jars with water, not an easy task. Then he told them, now draw some out and take it to the master of the banquet. They filled them to the brim. Now bring it out. They did so, and the master of the banquet tasted the water that had been turned into wine. He did not realize where it had come from, though the servants who had drawn the water knew. Then he called the bridegroom aside and said, everyone brings out the choice wine first, and then the cheaper wine after the guests have had too much to drink, because people don't really care about their palates after they've had enough to drink. Being able to say, they're going to say that it's wine, not the choice wine. The choice wine at the beginning saying, oh, that's good, it's leading me into this. But after their palate is not calling forth, how do I say that, after they don't have much taste because they've been drinking throughout this week, the choice wine shouldn't come first. But you have saved the best until now. This, verse 11, this is the first of his miraculous signs Jesus performed at Cana in Galilee. He thus revealed his glory, and his disciples put their faith in him. All of these signs, all these miracles will push people to just believe more and see the glory of Jesus revealed. The best is yet to come. You're going to see greater things. Jesus is always promising this, but always delivering that. You're going to see greater things. And we get to see that water to wine, an amazing thing. But it really is about who Jesus is and the greater things that are going to come from him. Even As he says, this is kind of the new wine, right? Jesus being able to lead them and fully reveal, fully kind of encompass this whole message that, yes, you've had this wine, you've had this goodness of God and these old wineskins from the laws and the prophets, but better things are to come. And you're going to see that in Jesus. May we hear that from Jesus. Greater things are yet to come. We're saying, okay, good, because I am not sitting in a great place in my life right now. And that's not what he's speaking to. The greater things is being able to say what Jesus has done and what he will do in his sacrifice. Hey, take and drink. This is my blood shed for you. Greater than just wine to water, but rather wine to the blood and the sacrifice that Jesus is going to bring for his disciples, for once again leading them into everlasting life. Praise be to God. Have a blessed day knowing that Jesus is with you.